Hi guys, Agrippa Maxentius here, and what I want to bring you today is a tutorial on the game Crusader Kings 2. Now I know there's a lot of people out there that are fans of other Paradox titles like Hearts of Iron 3, maybe even Victoria 2, maybe Europa Universalis 3, something of that nature. And you're thinking to yourself, Crusader Kings 2 is really not my kind of game, etc. I've heard a lot of people say this. There's really a lot more to this game than meets the eye, especially if you really get into it. And I think one of the biggest reasons that people stop playing this game is because of the level of difficulty involved for starting players. If you don't have like at least a rudimentary knowledge of medieval politics, then this game's going to be a little bit of a challenge for you. And the first thing you have to understand is basically the class system that is involved. So really quickly, I'm just going to show you just an example of what I'm talking about. For instance, if we go over here to the map of France, and let's say we look at our independent realms title. Now, when I click here, the Kingdom of West Francia is owned by King Charles the Bald over here, and you can get his diplomatic stats on your own. Now, if I click on duchies, now that's the next level down, which would be dukes. They control an assortment of provinces. So, for instance, the Duke Hugo of Anjou here controls the province of Evreux, Maine, Anjou, Tours, etc. He controls all of these provinces. And then we go to an even smaller level, the Count. And the Count controls single provinces. So, for instance, Count Gosfried of Maine over here controls only this province of Maine. And the Count of Anjou, Count Ingelger, I'm sure I'm totally butchering these names, but he controls Anjou. And his goal is to eventually maybe take over the duchy. But for now, he's basically a vassal of the Duke himself. So he works for the Duke. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start off in the county of Ormond, and I'm going to start off with an Earl, which for all intents and purposes is just an Irish name for a count. So we're starting off with the smallest title available. I'm not going to try to create a character, I'm just going to go with an already made character, and we'll go ahead and get started right away. So let's go ahead and do that. So first things first, guys. If you want to know specifically what you own, go over here to your map. Go up to the button that says Diplomatic Relations. Now, if you haven't, basically, I have a hotkey here and a here and here and here. If you don't have hotkeys assigned, you probably should. And as you can see, my diplomatic relations, when I click this button, a little bit of green pops out. Now, this green area is my land, basically what I own. Now, we're just going to quickly take a look at my Earl here. There's several different traits that are important into determining what kind of ruler you're going to have. So the first trait would be diplomacy. Diplomacy is, how do you deal with other vassals? How do you deal with the vassals below you, etc.? And 8 is essentially the average. 8 is basically a competent diplomat. 18 means that Earl Duncod is an incredible diplomat. However, the next thing is State Marshal. Now, martial skill is important for fighting and basically affects how you do in a war. This guy has one martial skill, which is not good. It wouldn't be in our best interest to get into war right away, but we're probably going to have to if we want to expand. Now, next is stewardship. Stewardship is probably my most my most favorite skill, and that's primarily because stewardship is the art of making money. And I mean, who doesn't love making money, right? So if your king has good stewardship or your earl, count, whatever, that's definitely a good thing. And your money's represented, I'm going to show you right up here in the upper right-hand corner. There's several things up here. This is your wealth. The next button over is your prestige. I just want to tell you now, right now, in terms of Crusader Kings 2, there's really not so much a point to the game in terms of ultimate victory. The real point to the game is to get as much prestige as possible, to make your family as well known and as widespread throughout the realms as possible, to make your dynasty echoed in the halls of history, just like the Plantagenets or any of those dynasties. You really want to just make an amazing dynasty. So prestige is your best friend. And prestige, next to prestige is piety. And this is obviously your favor with the church or whatever particular deity you choose to follow. Now, you could be a pagan in this game, etc. So anyway, getting back to this stuff over here, intrigue is obviously the spy master skill. A lot of the times your own vassals will try to have you killed, or they'll kill your children, etc., etc. So you definitely want to have a good intrigue skill. 5 is pushing it. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why is it that all my skills over here on the right are higher? This is because this is counting my diplomats as well, my counselors. And how do I find my counselors? That's a good question. you go over here to your council button. Now, it's the first button over here in the upper left corner of the screen. So we're going to go ahead and press that council button. I should say to the right of your portrait. I know this can get a bit confusing, guys. And these are basically your counselors. Now, each counselor has a specific job assignment, basically assigned to him. Now, in this case, Bron Makmonak is my chancellor, and his diplomacy skill is 13. We're just going to take a quick look at him. You don't always have to look at all of your chancellors, although in terms of the skill that they're personally responsible for. So for instance, the Chancellor is responsible for diplomacy, Marshal is responsible for Marshal, Steward is responsible for stewardship. You want them to be high in that particular skill. It's not so important if they're not high in the other skills. Although I will tell you this, if you get a Chancellor that's cunning or deceitful or anything like that, be careful. He may just try to take your throne and kill your family. Be very careful. So the first thing I want to do is I want to start getting claims on these territories. Now, back in the medieval times, basically claims were all word of mouth. There were clans that went back hundreds of years, some of them went back thousands of years, and they all asserted claims to certain territories. The problem was that each territory had hundreds of different clans, so the amount of claims was just unimaginable. I mean, you know, if you had money, you could more or less get yourself a claim. You could find some long-lost relative, some uncle, some great-great-great-uncle, or some, you know, 7th or 8th cousin that somehow tied you back to the throne. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this Fabricate Claims button right here, and we're going to put him in Desmond. And that's what I want to take next. I'm in Ormond here. This would be a pretty nice little setup here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, my Marshal, obviously, we're not going to go through all of these guys, but this particular Marshal happens to be my brother. A lot of the times, your family members are some of the people you have to watch out for the most. Other times, they're fairly trustworthy. And basically, you can tell that by this little blood drop in the upper right-hand corner. This means he's a family member of your dynasty. So that's pretty cool. And we're going to go ahead back to the council. The steward that I have right now, Cormac Maculinan, and what we want to do with the steward is collect taxes. There's a number of different things we could do. We could oversee construction of a building. So if you're actually building, and that's going to be in another tutorial. I can't cover everything here, guys. But if you're going to be building a building, this guy will actually speed up your construction. And you could also do the Research Economic Technology button, which basically promotes economic technologies to improve your overall economy over time. I'm not really a window shopper. I like to jump right in and collect taxes. So I'm going to click right here for the Collect Tax button. And my Spy Master, obviously, there's several different things your Spy Master can do. This is kind of cool. Now, he can scheme. And what scheming does is basically you put him in a province that you own, but that's owned by a count beneath you. It's not nearly as useful when you're just a count. But if I was a duke, for instance, I'd put it in a province where one of my counts was, just to make sure he wasn't planning anything against me. And you can uncover plots. You can actually even find out that a vassal is cheating you and ask him to pay back money. So it's really cool. Now, this Build Spy Network chance basically increases the chance of intrigue events happening against vassals you don't like. So if you want to go into like an enemy territory of someone you don't like, this will make sure that the spy does his best to make bad things happen to that person, you know, usually by spreading rumors or increasing corruption, etc. And the Study Technology button is just that, the study of technology. Now, first things first, scheming generally defends your ruler from your vassals revolting against you. If your Spy Master is pretty good, and this one's got a skill of 15, so that's not bad. I'm going to go ahead and scheme in Ormond too, and as you can see, my Spy Master and my Steward are now set up in Ormond. Now, the Court Chaplain is here to spread religion. We don't actually have any real problems with the religion because Ireland's all Catholic, so we're going to go ahead and just research cultural technology in Ormond, and let's go ahead. Now, I'm going to start the game, guys. You'll soon notice that up here there are some buttons. The first button here shows a king and his wife, and it basically says ruler unmarried. Now, what we need to do is we need to marry off our ruler to somebody. You have to understand, in medieval politics, marriages were extremely important. You always wanted to marry a woman of importance, a woman who had wealth behind her name, maybe some lands. But in this case, since we're just an earl, we're probably going to have to settle for, you know, like a nursemaid of some sort, not really a very important person. But for instance, right here, Ximena, the Princess of Navarra, has pretty decent skills. And once I actually marry a woman, my own skills will increase. So my own diplomatic skill will increase. Not on the left-hand side here, but on the right-hand side, where they factor in all of the diplomats, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Ximena, and I'm going to propose a marriage. I don't think that the King Garcia of Navarra will decline, but I could be wrong. And as you can see, King Garcia of Navarra is her father. So by marrying her, I will gain an alliance with him, which is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and keep going. My Earl, the more I study the Lollard religion, the more I compel to embrace and show you the wisdom that lies in these texts. Now, this is funny. A lot of interesting things tend to happen in this game. And basically, what's happening right now is my own court chaplain, who's supposed to be a beacon of the Catholic Church, is trying to convert me to a heretical religion. Now, the interesting thing is, if I was a king, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to take the Lollard religion. And that's because it gives me a de jure claim. A de jure claim is basically a rightful claim to a land, to any land bordering mine, and the reason being because I would be a heretic, so all the Catholic lands around me would be up for grabs. So it's not altogether a bad idea in the future, but right now, it's not a good idea. And unfortunately, this guy's my kinsman, which loosely translated means my cousin. I don't know if he's my first cousin, second cousin, third. You could certainly find out by going through the family tree of this game, but I'm just going to say he's mad, arrest him. And just to show you quickly, one of the really cool aspects of this game is the family tree. I want to go ahead and show you guys that. So over here, when you click on your family portrait button, or I should say your character portrait button, you have several buttons underneath the clan name here. Now, one of them is the dynasty tree, which is very cool, the family tree, and the realm tree. Now, all of them are very interesting. I want to first show you the dynasty tree. Now, this is just the dynasty, the fathers, brothers, etc. of Dungshad. And he actually had another brother. He's actually the second brother of... I'm not even going to try to pronounce this name, but this guy, Dub Dabarin Makundamiel, it's probably nowhere near as close, is my father. So basically you can use this to look at your interesting family tree, which will grow as you progress through the game. And this is my direct family tree. As you can see, I don't have any sons yet, I don't have a wife yet, I'm still waiting on a marriage. So... kind of cool. And this button over here obviously means that someone died, when you have a skull next to the button. And it's funny because this game will actually give you a cause of death, an age of death, and even a date. So it's just pretty funny stuff. Let's go ahead and continue. And come on, I thought I already sent out that marriage request. I'm sure I did. Okay, so my sister... every now and again, either your daughter or your sister will want to get married. Now, what you want to do is you want to arrange marriage. Now, if you click matrilineal marriage, all of the sons that your sister has with her particular husband will be of your dynasty, so they could basically take over your kingdom once you pass away. But it's not always the best thing to do, especially when you're just trying to keep a very direct lineage. You know, if you have too many heirs, etc., it's going to cause a war of succession, which means that a lot of different people are going to all of a sudden claim your throne, or in this case, your county, and that's not good. So I'm just going to marry her off. Now, Zacharias, the king of Nubia, is a Miaphysite king, and while he would probably give me the most prestige, he's the farthest away from me to be of any use. The kingdom of Nubia is all the way in northern Africa, so there's really no point in becoming a vassal of his. I mean, excuse me, in marrying into his family. However, the King Louis the Stammer of Aquitaine is in France, and this guy could be of some use. I doubt he's actually going to come to my aid because I'm just a lowly earl, but I'm going to go ahead and marry my daughter off to him anyway. So I'll say I will find her someone nice. Okay, so thankfully, the King of Spain did accept my marriage proposal. One of the cool things that happens when you get married is you can ask for gold from your vassals. So I am going to ask for that gold. And just real quickly here, when this button pops up of a chair, it means that someone in your council has either died, run away, been imprisoned, any number of different options. Sometimes people will leave your council just by giving them an earl title. So I'm going to go ahead and appoint someone, and my father seems to be a pretty good choice, even though he's 71 years old. He will now be the new court chaplain. Oh, I know what happened to that guy. We put him in jail. And just quickly, guys, if you go up here to your panel, the fifth one rather, Intrigue, it looks sort of like a dagger with a letterhead. You click that, and you can actually see down here your prisoners. So as you can see, Kulinan Maxelbach is my prisoner and is imprisoned by Earl Dunshad of Ormond. And he's also a Lollard. Over here you can see he's a heretic. There's a number of different things I can do. I can banish him from my realm and possibly get some gold. But as you can see, he has little to no gold at all. I could execute him, which, unless he's extremely dangerous, like unless he's been revolting against you 2-3 times, there's really no point. I could release him, which does increase the respect amongst my vassals a little bit, or I could just leave him in jail. Being that he's a family member, I'm not going to execute him. I'm going to keep him in jail. I would actually receive a penalty for executing him with my vassals, because they would see me as a tyrant, which is unfortunate. So we're going to go ahead and continue. And Or actually, I should say, I'm actually incorrect on that. Since he's a Lullard, he's a heretic, and there actually is no penalty. There's a -10 penalty, but not the usual -40 that you would get for killing a vassal. When this pops up, guys, it's asking your ruler to pick an ambition. Now, what you want to do here is select an ambition, something that you're working towards. I find that the best one for me to start out with is to have a son. Everybody wants an heir to carry on your dynasty, and that's really the whole point of the game, is to have a legitimate heir and continue having a legitimate heir. So I'm going to choose that as my goal. Now, when that goal is completed, I do believe you get 1 to diplomacy. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a few more things. This is your laws panel, and basically this allows you to change the feudal laws of your particular county, kingdom, etc. Now, in this case, the feudal levies represent the amount of soldiers that my vassals can give to me. And just quickly, I'll show you what my vassals are. Since I'm a count, I don't have many vassals. The only people that really work for me are this Bishop Fergal, the Bishop of Cashel, and Melmorda, the mayor of Nena, which I guess is this city right here inside Ormond. And right now, these are basically the only people that work for me. So I'm going to go back to the laws panel. I'm not going to increase my maximum feudal levies because they don't have much to give anyway. Now, feudal taxation is exactly what it sounds like. It's how much you're going to tax your vassals. Generally, I keep this at none to small. And especially since I'm starting out, I might increase it to small. But generally, I don't even touch that. So I've gone ahead and instituted the small levies law, the small feudal taxation law. And what's going to happen is, for the next 2 to 3 years, I believe, for the next 5 years, I'm not able to change any laws. Now, city levies, city taxation, church levies, church taxation kind of speaks for itself. You guys can understand what's going on here. The more you tax these particular classes, the more they're going to dislike you, so be very careful. We're going to go ahead and move on to the technology panel. And for now, I can't actually change my technology at all. Thankfully, Paradox streamlined the technology system a lot more. Before Old Gods DLC, this was a lot more complicated, but now it's quite easy to use. And it'll basically let you know, the button will pop up here when you're actually able to improve these various technologies. And just real quickly, we're going to check out the military screen, although this I'm going to go over specifically in another tutorial. And I just want to show you my levies. Now, this is the military screen. It's the 4th from left. And basically, all I have are 260 men, and 260 men of my own realm. So that's basically guys that work for me directly. And I have 94 from my vassals. So Fergal, the bishop, and Melmorda, the mayor, are only able to get 94 men together, which is, makes sense. I mean, at the time, these villages weren't very populated, and not everyone was of fighting age. Not to mention that most people died in their mid-30s, so it wasn't uncommon for there not to be a lot of men to fight, especially for just an earl. So guys, I'm going to wrap up the first part of my tutorial there on medieval politics. I hope that helps. You understand Crusader Kings 2 a little bit more. I'm going to do a part 2 to this because, I've only explained maybe 25% of what needs to be explained for you even to get a basic understanding of the game. But if you enjoyed this tutorial, if it helped you at all, let me know in the comments down below. And if you're having any trouble with the game, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll definitely get back to you. I always respond to my subscribers, and especially just to people commenting. So post down below and let me know what you think. Thanks so much, guys.